Hey guys, JB here. I am in the Wolf's Den for another awesome episode here. I have a very special guest today, man by the name of Dave Rubin. You might know who he is. Dave is a very interesting guy. Political commentator, former comedian, also formerly a member of the right, the conservative Republican Party, right? And Dave is also gay. You would never know by looking at Dave. Not that you should know or not. Hey, I don't take any positions in this, but interestingly, Dave is really very outspoken about, his belief that, if you are, LGBTQ, whatever it is, like that has nothing to do with what party you belong to in terms of identity politics. Like you have to, if you identify this way, then you got to be a member of this party or whatnot. So Dave truly, in my mind, is a free thinker. Someone that calls it as it is. Very insightful, very funny. So what we talk about here, this is filmed pre-election. So you hear Dave and I going back and forth about what we think is going to happen and what the ramifications will be if Biden wins or Trump wins. So it's interesting because it's a bit dated here, but I think you're really going to enjoy the insights. And let's face it, as of today, the election still isn't really been decided. Now, I know if you're on the left, you're probably watching one set of newscasts. It's really weird now. Everyone's got different news. So if you're on the left, you're seeing that Biden won and he's going to be inaugurated in January and there's no problems. Electoral college is going to meet very soon, mid-December, and that will be that. But if you're on the right, you're reading very different news articles. You're reading the fact that Biden is not going to get inaugurated because the election is going to get overturned either by the state legislatures or the Supreme Court. And that's really strange. In fact, this idea that half the country is listening, watching, reading one set of news articles, and the other half is reading a different set that are pretty much diametrically opposed. What does that mean for our country? Where do we go from here when people can't even agree on the same facts because they're getting fed different stories? It's a huge issue. It's a huge, huge issue. In fact, I'm toying with the idea right now of really putting on an extra episode each week to my podcast that's going to be strictly about politics and strictly about trying to give people an accurate viewpoint that shows both sides. What the left is saying, what the right is saying, and maybe I can cut through it in a way that everyone can at least see the other one's point of view. See, right now, if you're on the right, you're reading that this election was flat out stolen, that there's undeniable proof, there's video proof, there's testimonials, there's affidavits, there's mathematical proof, statistical evidence. There's just flat out no possible way that Biden won. It was stolen. It was stolen through stuffed ballot boxes, through computer fraud, this is what you're hearing if you're on the right. If you're on the left, listen very closely. Because just imagine if it was the other way around and you were hearing this about, let's say Biden had lost, and you were hearing that, listen, Trump only won because of fraud. That Biden actually won. What would you be doing right now? Would you be in the street picketing? Would you be rioting? Would you be flipping out? Would you feel disenfranchised? So just remember, before you condemn the other side, this is what is being said. There's multiple channels, whether it's the app Parler, whether it's the Rumble, whether it's Facebook, which has a little bit of it. Facebook, tilts very heavily to the left now, so they censor out most things conservative, but there's still enough on there. The point is that if you're on the right, you're hearing one story. You're hearing a different set of facts. And based on those facts, it makes you feel a certain way. You're enraged. You feel disenfranchised. You want justice. You don't feel like you're really part of the same country anymore. And if you're on the left, you're watching things like MSNBC or mainstream media, CNN, right? And you're thinking, what is wrong with these people on the right? Are they crazy? The election's over. There was no fraud. Fraud is very rare, and there's no systemic fraud. It's been proven. Trump lost 49 court cases. He's just a sore loser. He's a psychopath. He's never going to want to leave unless he's forced out by the Navy SEALs. That's what you're hearing on the left. So if you're hearing all this stuff, now, if you're on the right, you have to have sympathy for people on the left because, what would you be thinking? If that's all you were hearing, then you would be thinking that the people on the right are crazy, that Trump is a criminal. The problem is the mainstream media, is the news. The news is basically completely been corrupted and is full of shit. There is no more days of down the middle. Everything is wildly opinionated. They either it's like they have a narrative that they are putting forth, and if the facts don't agree with their narrative, they simply don't report. I've watched the New York Times, a paper that I was brought up to believe was a really good newspaper, completely ignore facts that are just like they're so damaging to the country. I mean, the allegations being made by Trump and his team and by many, many people, and I've seen all the videos, and a lot of it looks to be really authentic. I would love for the New York Times and the mainstream media to really pick apart those allegations and show me why they're not true. I want to show me why they're false. I'd love to see that. But to ignore that they exist is insane. To just simply not report the news and think that makes it not newsworthy is not going to solve this problem, because there are alternative apps now. Because what's happening is all the people on the right now, they're finding new ways to communicate, to get together that don't have any censorship, so Twitter can't censor or put bogus fact checks or sometimes true fact checks. The point is that unless there is a way for us to communicate and us to have, as a group, as a country, to find, what are the real facts, which usually lie somewhere in the middle. It's usually never right on this side or that side. It's usually in the middle, right? But I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm thinking about myself of adding on a podcast each week where I just talk about, hey, here's what the right is saying. Here's what the left is saying. And, and I'll put my own views aside. And here's what I think is really going on. But for the people right now on the left, for the Democrats to think that the Republicans and the Trump lovers are just insane idiots, sore losers, is really unhealthy and unfair. Just as much as for the Trump people to think that the lefts are all socialist, anarchist, terrible people, and they need to be dealt with, and, we just can't let Biden ever take power. If there was fraud in this election, then I would think both sides would want to have that fraud uncovered, and the rightful winner should be made president, right? Now, again, I don't know what's going to happen, because if you read one set of articles here on the right and speak to one group of people, they are like saying Biden ain't taking office, like kind of over my dead body sort of stuff, right? Like civil war is on the horizon. And we saw what happened when the left feels disenfranchised. You have people rioting the streets and burning down, middle America, right? And the coasts as well. Something's got to give, guys. Something's got to give. So in this podcast with Dave Rubin, you hear us speaking about these things, about the left, about the right, what's wrong, why Dave left the left and went to the right, even though he's gay, and what type of shit he took for that. Who gave him a shit? Was it the people on the right that gave him shit for coming out of the closet, or was it the people on the left? Was it his own parents? So it's really very interesting when you actually unpack this. All right. So again, this is a political-based episode of the Wolf's Den, and it's certainly, please don't tune out because it's not business-oriented. You need to hear this stuff because it's very important. Right now, the United States is a country in turmoil. And it's in turmoil. I blame more than anyone else the media for intentionally dividing the country by putting out false narratives, one artificially skewed to the right, one to the left, and people ending up in their own echo chambers, listening to people who only think and talk like them. And again, the truth usually lies in the middle. All right, so with that, let's cut to the podcast. But first, a word from our sponsor. All right, listen, you deserve to feel happier, to sleep better, and to experience the medically validated results of HEADSPACE. HEADSPACE is meditation made simple. And for Wolf's Den listeners, you can get a free 1-month trial if you sign up today, right now. Go to headspace.com/wolfden. That's headspace.com/wolfden. All right, so Dave, how are you?
I'm all right, man. We're less than 6 feet apart. This is criminal stuff we're doing over here.
I hope you got tested, because this is such a dangerous disease that you have to be tested to find out if you have it. You don't really know until you test it. Then they'll tell you like that you're asymptomatic. Oh, I'm so sorry you're asymptomatic.
Yeah.
How long has it been this way? Yeah.
Yeah. How long have you felt completely fine?
I know. Crazy. Hey, right before we started this segment here, you just blurted out some words. You said, "Hey, I'm from Long Island too."
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Where are you from?
So I was born in Brooklyn, and I was in Brooklyn till I was 3 years old, and then
Okay.
we moved out to Syosset, Long Island.
Oh wow,
So,
that's
right,
real.
Nassau
That's like
County.
that's where I recruited all my people from.
I know.
Oh
I
my
know. So
God.
I have a buddy staying at my house now, childhood friend since I'm 4 years old, who I think some of his older brothers,
I'm sure, yeah,
were somewhat in cahoots with some of the things that you were doing
Right.
over the years.
What's his last name?
Probably I shouldn't say right now. He probably doesn't want me to say right now, but I'll tell you after. But you will definitely know some of the guys.
Oh yeah, so Syosset was
Yeah.
like the breeding ground. They always said that there was something in the water in Syosset, like because you know what it was like. You're surrounded by all these rich, savage Jews.
Yeah.
And I can say that because I'm Jewish,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But like Syosset, you weren't like is like you weren't really wealthy, but you had enough education to know how little you had, so you were like dying to go out there, take over the world. So
Yeah.
Syosset really had some real winners.
It's interesting. You said water, even though in Syosset and Long Island you say water.
Yeah,
but
water.
you actually you put the R in there. Very
Yeah, so
impressive.
I've actually
You've
over
been
the years,
domesticated.
I've
over
been
the years.
domesticated. I have been. I think when I first came out here, I noticed my daughter because I got divorced. My kids moved out here first about not a long time ago, maybe 20 years.
Divorced. See, now I heard Long Island, so now you got it back. Okay.
Divorced. I divorced.
Yeah.
Right? I can put it on pretty hard though.
Yeah.
But when I heard my daughter, I was like, wow, what happened to you? Like, she's like, Dad, you don't speak that way out here, So you moved to say you grew up in Syosset?
Grew up in Syosset. My folks are still in the same house that I grew up in for over almost 50 years now.
What are those little areas like East and West Birchwood? What's it called? No, like there's Robbins Lane.
Yeah. Robbins Lane, East and West Birchwood.
Yeah.
Right between Woodbury and Jericho.
Exactly. Wow.
Long Island Railroad, the whole thing.
What brought you out to the West Coast?
So I moved out here in February 2013, and I had a show on Sirius XM, and I did stand up in New York for about 12 years. I was funny in another life a long time ago.
Right.
I used to be funny, and then I started getting into the politics game, and I did a show on the Young Turks, pretty far left, progressive,
Very far left, yeah.
very far left. I didn't realize how far
Now,
left.
didn't that guy get in trouble or something? The Young Turk guy for something that happened. Like he's a bigger, beefy looking guy, right? And then he was like crying like the night that Trump won. He was like and then like a few weeks later, something happened to the guy. Like he got Me Too'd or something, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know that he fully got Me Too'd, but they had a bit of a culture of sexist kind of stuff. I don't like throwing those labels around, all that nonsense. But there was obviously stuff that I saw going on over there and everything else. So it's so consistent with the way these guys behave. It's like, we're for all the women, we're for all the gays, and then it's always them
right.
that are building the cultures that do all of this stuff.
It's interesting that I hate to like you said, I don't want to put labels, but I will put labels.
Yeah.
Why not? But
Sometimes
it seems like that on the left.
Yeah.
Right. And my daughter's on the left, by the way, and she's completely normal and healthy, and we have great dialogues together and conversations and arguments that never get too heated, just like great debates, really.
Wow, a sane lefty. You must have done
she's a
something
really
right.
sane lefty. In fact, she's such a sane lefty that she actually wanted to come up with a program that was going to teach young people on the left and right how to speak to each other sanely. She's a psychologist, and I said, you'd make a fortune on that one. And she just got so into her psychology. But the thing is that this weird thing that it's almost whatever they accuse you of doing, they're doing. What do you think that's about?
I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons for it. Like, even when I don't talk, every interview I do, people want to talk about the Young Turks because I was a lefty and now I'm a scary conservative or something like that.
Very scary.
But what I find is you're right that almost everything that the lefties promote is exactly what they're secretly for. So they'll scream about unions, but then like the Young Turks isn't a union shop, but they'll be out there screaming Bernie and unions and all that stuff, and they'll be out there screaming we're for women, and then you find out that they've created this anti-woman culture and all of these things. Psychologically, what I think it's about is it's just kind of lazy thinking, like the way they almost do everything. It's just it's just easy to say we're for women, we're for gays, we're for blacks, as if any of that has any meaning. What you would really want to be for is you're for people.
Right.
Like I just met your guys here, and it's like you got a couple people here, and it's like, can I just judge all of them? Like, oh, well, there's one white guy, about 25, he must think this sort of thing. Black girl here, she must think this. It's like, it's actually
true identity politics, and
it's prejudice. I mean, it's actual prejudice. It's just lazy thinking. The left gives us just a ton of stuff. We're going to make make everything free. We're going to pay for all of your stuff. It all kind of sounds good. And you're like, oh, but does any of this work? How do you pay for any of this? How do you make any of this actually happen? And that's what they don't like thinking about. And that's why they're so hysterical.
I read an article many years ago that parallels this, and that when it comes to pornography, you know, like, I don't know, there's this thing called Pornhub. I never really heard.
Pornhub now?
Hub. You hear that?
It's on the computer.
I think it's on
somebody sent me something.
My friend of mine told me anyway.
Yeah, I got a
friend of mine told me about Pornhub, right?
Yeah.
And when they were actually saying, what do you think is the most, like, what area of the United States uses Pornhub as the most downloads anywhere in the United States? Where would you think, right? So you think maybe, well, the sexually depraved city of New York, or right? You know where it is actually? It's in Salt Lake City, Utah, and the Bible Belt. Why? Right. Because I think it's not really just lefts that are leftists. I think it's extremists.
Hypocrisy knows
it's like no, but like it's almost like extreme thing.
Yeah.
People are any extreme point,
right?
It's like they whether it's on the right, when they're, you know, you go to the right side, you're going to see they're hypocrites, and you go to the left. Just that right now the left is really loud on. There's a certain hypocritical side of the left. This is so loud they just giving you layups. It's like you can't help, right?
Well, that's the thing. These things are cyclical. So it's like, the left is way worse right now. Like on the right, they'll argue with you. They're open. You know, like they're decent. Like it really is good right now. But let's not forget, it's only 20 years ago. I was my first job out of college. I was an assistant manager at electronics boutique in Broadway Mall, Hicksville, Long Island. And remember Mortal Kombat? Remember the game Mortal Kombat? Well, it was the right. It was the conservatives who were trying to get Mortal Kombat banned because of blood in video games, because they thought it was going to make people violent.
Exactly.
So it's not,
and they're out there promoting war at the same time and real violence. Right, exactly.
Right. While they're voting to invade countries.
Yeah.
So nobody's innocent in this nonsense.
And I think what I notice is that any time in history, in any group, left or right, it seems that as soon as they believe that the ends justifies the means, bad things happen.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're seeing that right now. I mean,
right?
We're seeing that right now. I mean, look, you can find videos that I was doing when I thought of myself as a lefty. I mean, I was a Bernie guy. You know, it's like I was really that thing. But you can see videos where when I started waking up to it, where I'm going, guys, we got to stop calling everybody that we disagree with a Nazi. We got to stop calling Trump Hitler, because it's not what you're doing to them. It's actually not. It's what you're doing to yourself. Because if all day long I'm calling you Hitler and I'm saying everyone you're friends with is a bunch of Nazis, it loses its power. But also, now let's just say you start doing some good stuff, which Trump was doing, like remove COVID for a second, but the economy was working.
Right.
Remember Middle East peace? We always wanted that. Now we got that. Like all these good things that were happening under Trump. But yet they couldn't suddenly be like, Hitler, Hitler guy, he's actually not that bad. And that's why they always double down, because they stake out these crazy propositions. Trump is Hitler. Now it's 4 years later, the economy's chugging, lowest all-time black unemployment, lowest Latino unemployment, Middle East peace, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can't be like, I guess I got Hitler wrong. I'm sorry about that, Hitler. So you double down always. And that's what caused these guys to just... Trump broke people. Yeah. He just broke.
Why do you think that is? Well, let me stop. Wait. Let's go back to your awakening for a second. What was it that brought you to the other side, per se, like, left, right? Was there an incident, or was it a series of incidents?
Yeah. So there were a couple things that happened. I talk about three of them in my book, but I'll give you one. So first off, for about a year, I had been thinking the math is not working here anymore. How could it be that we lefties were so right about everything? We're so moral and good, and it's all so obvious, and we're for poor people, they're for rich people, we're for peace, they're for war. Like, the math started not to work. How could we all be so great and they're all racist? You know what I mean? Like, it seemed too easy. So that was the idea that was kind of sitting there. And then I had three sort of incidences that woke me up. One of them was, this guy David Webb. He's a Sirius XM guy. He's conservative. He's on Fox a lot. He guest hosts for Hannity sometimes. He has a really gravelly voice, David Webb. Yeah, he's on the Patriot Channel. So he happens to be black. And when I was on Sirius XM years ago, I was on the Out Q channel. That was the gay channel. They just threw, if you were gay, they threw you on the gay channel. I said, I want to be on the political channel. They're like, you're gay, you're going on the gay channel.
So you're gay?
Yeah.
By the way,
damn whoop.
Really
We can talk about it or not.
No, it's really funny is that I am very prejudiced against.
I'm not really gay till about 10 p.m. So it's a little early for me now.
Well, I'm prejudiced. My staff knows this about me. I'm prejudiced against two types of people.
Yeah, which two?
Lazy and stupid. Yeah. I literally hate lazy, stupid people. Everyone else,
You're good.
I'm good. It's egalitarian, meritocracy, lazy, stupid. I have no fucking tolerance. So
I hear you on that.
I have the worst gaydar. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I had another guest last week, and he was. I guess everyone else was like, he's totally obviously gay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm in the middle of the thing. So he says he's adopting 2 kids. I'm like, how long are you married for? I'm like, okay. I'm like,
yeah.
I was like, how could you not know that? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, he's a nice guy. I don't put label. I'm really interesting.
It's obvious just from sitting down.
You and I would never know, by the way. You don't read gay to me. Hey guys, does he read gay to you? Not at all.
Again, only after 10 p.m.
Okay, so, fair enough. You don't read it at all, though.
No, but I've been with my husband for 10 years. We've been married for about 6 years, but we've been together.
What really, right? It's so ridiculous that the whole thing.
It's just, I like basketball and I like Star Wars and a whole bunch of other things.
I always say, in some ways, I envy you. I think you're the luckiest guy in the world because I wish I were gay. Yeah. No, but seriously, 'cause I get along so well with guys.
Yeah.
If imagine I could play a set of tennis and go, let's go bang it. I mean, that'd be the greatest thing ever. My man, buddies, but I just don't. That's not how I'm wired.
We shoot hoops and then we do what we got to do.
It's fucking luckiest thing, right? I have all these different beliefs. We'll go there later. But anyway, I'm sorry, but I just had to.
You do know there are some women that you could play sports with and then still.
I never marry one though. I have not gotten lucky enough. So my new girlfriend, she's swears she's gonna take up golf, but she's threatening now. She threatened to take up tennis. That never worked out. So
but there's nothing hot about having sex after golf. It would be like you want to have sex after something that you were sweating. After
golf, a cigar together and on the golf course or something. But you really don't. To me, again, I'm the worst at this stuff here. But you don't even read.
Well, people always say that to me, it's like I guess this is in a weird way that. So I was closeted also late into my 20s. And in some ways, I think it was partly because of that. This is just who I am. It just is what it is. And sometimes I used to think people would say to me, I'd meet gay guys who gay guys put a very high premium on straight acting. They love straight acting guys. So they always loved me. And I was always like, well, this is just who I am. But I thought, in a weird way, I thought that made me even more of an odd outlier because I was like, wait a minute, why aren't I like these? I thought when you said you're gay, it meant you like the theater and you like to dance, and I don't really like to dance, and I don't really like the theater.
How old were you when you knew?
So believe it or not, the first person I came out to was at about 12:30 a.m. on September 11th, 2001 at the Times Square subway station. I'm sure you've been, where the shuttle is that goes between Grand Central and Times Square. I told my friend Mike, who is also a comedian, went to bed and woke up from a call from my dad, who could see. He worked in Midtown. He could see the first plane hit, and he called me, and I woke up, and I genuinely thought it had something to do with me. I thought I had held this. That's how screwed up you can be when you're in the closet. Like the world is in effect about you. And I truly thought I had held this secret in. So I was about 25. That I had held this secret in for so long.
You didn't know? Did you in denial, or or did you?
No. I mean, I was messing around with guys for years and all that kind of stuff. But I was just not out. Were
you in heterosexual relationships too, or no?
Yeah. I had girlfriends over the years. I've sent a lot of girls to mental institutions.
I bet you have, right? Yeah.
But truly, I woke up the next morning. America's under attack, and I thought it had something to do with me. That I had finally released this secret, and now America's under attack, which that then seriously screwed me up psychologically for some time too. So it's an inside job.
So that was when you really came out, but in other words, but you did know when you were younger though.
But again, I really thought there was just something kind of wrong with me because I somehow separated like attraction from like what was stereotypically gay. It's also it's hard for like people that are like 18 or young, or even anyone under 30. It's kind of hard. Gay is so normal now.
Right.
Like it's just not thought of as anything. It's exactly what you described, even though you're not 18, but like it's what you described of like, oh, you're a person and I don't care who you sleep with and I hope you're happy and all that
just
stuff.
Don't be lazy and stupid around me. I'm okay with it.
Right, exactly. Don't be lazy and stupid. I mean, that's pretty much my motto too.
Right,
like, I don't care about those. When I'm hiring, like I'm not looking at you going, are you straight or gay or male or female or black or white? Like, you going to work hard?
I don't want to interrupt you, but in some way, do you think this is where the Republican Party has it wrong? I always said to myself that if they could just get that shit, this stupid,
but they're there
shit of like this, like about like this against gay like, why would anybody be? I mean, how could you be against gay marriage? I don't get it. Like, how could you deny someone else happiness?
Well, it's the
stupidest thing. It defies. How could you believe in the Constitution of the United States and defy? Okay, I guess they'll gauze the Trump card. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't add up to, because I always said that's the big mistake. And it seems Trump has done a lot to bring the party back.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the sense that you notice now Latinos coming into the party and blacks, right?
Yeah.
And, these results, which we'll get to after what's going with the election right now. But I always said they really got this shit wrong with it. They're on the wrong side of the whole gay marriage thing. And also, like with abortion, like I had, Dan Crenshaw, who I love, by the way, right?
Yeah, I love
him. He goes, listen, it's not, whoa, we would gladly settle some reasonable thing about, we're not asking for that to never be abortion.
Yeah.
Any reasonable Republican. We just don't want them like killing babies that are 8 months and 2 weeks. He goes, but the left is so that they want the right to kill them until the baby's out there. They want to be able to kill
post-birth.
Right.
They literally talk about post-birth. Well, so I think you're totally right. I mean, look, the gay thing, if just from an American perspective, if you believe in the Constitution, if you believe that people should be free and be able to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then in essence, you should be. So it should have been, I mean, this is the irony, it should have been a position of the right to be pushing for gay marriage from a libertarian
100%.
perspective. The people on the right should have said, wait a minute, maybe I have some personal religious belief, which is, by the way, protected by the Constitution, but at the same time, my personal religious belief can't trump somebody else, how they want to live their lives as consenting adults. They got screwed up because you remember
the Tea Party get hijacked. They get hijacked by the religious right.
Well, so it was. When it really got bad for them is in George W. Bush's reelection. He had this guy Ken Mellman.
I remember.
Who was the head of the RNC.
Yeah.
And he came out.
Yeah.
He was a closeted gay guy.
Not obvious. Always the ones yelling aloud. As I said, either side, the biggest hypocrites. Crazy, right?
So that's why the hypocrisy thing, it goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
Think about it. Bush needed an issue to get the evangelical base
to fired up.
We gotta get fired up. We gotta get fired up. This is when he was against John Kerry, and they were like, we got to do something because he wasn't super popular. Iraq War, blah blah blah. And he then has a closeted gay guy. I don't think he knew that Mellman. Everyone sort of knew in a weird way in D.C., and there's a lot of closeted people even now there. But in effect, a closeted gay guy made a pact with the devil to institute this idea that, we're going to have the Defense of Marriage Act. And I mean, that stuff had already started with Clinton. But to wrap this all up, yes, it should be a position of the right. And by the way, pretty much nobody on the right. I mean, all my friends now, all the people that will talk to me are libertarians and conservatives. Nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody cares.
No one cares.
No one cares.
Right.
No one cares. Not to say they don't have their own personal beliefs. Like, look, Ben Shapiro.
Like a Pence, for example. Like
he has Pence is an evangelical Christian. He has his own personal religious beliefs. But as long as you're not coming for me and my family,
right?
That's the exchange in America.
Mentality, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So, like, I guess in a sense, like, it's always like the extremists tend to hijack the party on both sides. So right now, it seems like the extremists on the left are out in full force.
They're out in full force.
They're out in full force. So what do you think happened here? What do you think went wrong? What do you really happened with this election?
I mean, well, first off, is this airing today? This is going to
air but it's going to air before it's resolved.
Okay, fair enough.
It's going to air within the next week.
Within the next week. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a great episode.
So first off, let me say that I don't think this thing's over yet. I don't either. I really don't. I don't think Trump came this far, meaning where he beat the media, beat the establishment, beat the political elites at every level, like every step along the way. That guy, he just cut them down, right? I don't think he made it this far to not have a final move. Like at the end, you're at the end of the movie, you're at the end of the video game, the big boss, and he didn't have a secret weapon. He didn't think that the entire machine was going to come down on him in the way that it has. So look, Sidney Powell, who's his lawyer, and Giuliani, who destroyed the mob in New York.
Well aware of all of
Yeah, like all of these people.
I'm really up on this stuff.
Yeah. So like these are true fighters who have really done things over the years. You know, Sidney Powell is also Mike Flynn's lawyer. Like they've done real stuff. They're now saying, and some of the others. Who's the other lawyer? There's one other guy. There's
weird name, right?
Lynn. Lynn.
Who's the lawyer? Like a weird name. Like,
no, Lynn something. Lynn.
Is there a
Polish,
first name
and the last name?
There's a Polish sounding.
There's
guy.
probably a Polish.
Hold on, I'll tell you his name. Hold on. I'll tell you the name right now. Let's see. What we got.
I'm not sure about that guy.
I have my new app. I'm on Parler. You on Parler?
I have. Rubin Report on Parler.
Yeah, I love it because I think it's great because I love freedom of speech. Let's see who this guy's name is.
Lynn Wood. That's the one I'm going for. That's the other lawyer, but that doesn't sound like the Polish lawyer.
Really strange. I was like, who's this guy popping up last night?
So all right. So you're saying there's another lawyer. He's Polish. We don't know exactly what he's doing. In any event, I think they've still got something. I think Trump planned that something like this was going to happen. Right. I think Bill Barr, the attorney general, planned that something was going to happen. So maybe it's all nonsense, but I think he's got one move left, and I think they're trying to build a case. I think that's basically what's going on. But
so here's the question, right?
You're telling me Joe Biden with dementia and all of the baggage of standing for nothing, the base hates him. You're telling me he got 15 million more votes than Barack Obama, and we're supposed to believe that?
Listen, how? There's so much that's not possible. Like who you believe, me or lying eyes is the old question. I watched Trump pull crowds in the middle of a pandemic, quote unquote, Dr. Evil, right? Laser, right? Pandemic, and 50,000 people. I was in Opa-locka Airport taking off the night he had like 22,000 people in an airport in Florida, right? And this was being duplicated all over the country. Biden couldn't get 3 people in cars to show up anywhere. It doesn't work. You don't win all the down ballot races and lose the president.
So that's the really
it does not work. That it doesn't work, and there's just too much. Listen, I know what I saw. Okay. Yeah. And also, there's only one plausible explanation that of how Biden could have won legitimately. There's only one way, and I don't think it happened. Is that there is a power that so it's almost like an internet marketing play. When you want to sell people products online, what do? The first thing you do is you get them to opt in. The way you get someone to opt in is you give them something for free and they sign up on your mailing list and you start sending them mailers, and then you make an offer, and then you have a retargeting game and you keep remarketing to them, and it keeps, and all of a sudden each message is a bit different, and you finally hit their hot button and like, all right, fine. In a moment of impulse, they do it. Yeah. So what do? Let's send every single person, whether they want one or not, a ballot. It's sitting on their kitchen table. And now you're marketing to this person 300 times a day for 38 days straight and saying, and Robo, fill, is it there? Fill it out. And you give someone 35 days to hear a message, all different messages while they have a chance to just, versus the actual motivation required to get up and go to a polling booth. You create an unlevel playing field. You create an unnatural situation where you could actually market to people strategically, and they were playing a full-on mail-in ballot game. But let's give everyone. Now, I'm not saying, and I believe there was massive fraud, massive irregular, but the only possible way you could say he even got some votes is that if you give everyone a ballot and you continue,
that will just,
and imagine that you just call and, hey, is that ballot on your is that ballot? Go right now to the kitchen. You don't think that happened? Yeah. Go right now, fill it out. I want you to put that address on there. So what you did, you create a situation where you make it really, it's something called an action threshold, right? When someone in sales, right? So when someone is going to make a decision or not, right? The more energy they have to put into the decision, the less apt they are to make it. So tell someone, hey, okay, you like Biden, great. You got to get in your car, go down to the polling booth, wait in line and sit there, versus right on your kitchen table. is going to be able to just fill it out. We'll do everything else for you. It's already paid for, no postage required.
Yeah.
And then you start marketing to that ballot. That's the only way, which is not the way elections are supposed to be. It's supposed to be an election day, right? But I still don't believe, just so you know, I still don't believe, just saying that's the only way he can even compete.
I'll even give you one little bonus piece of that would help me convince it, even though I'm basically with you, because I was here. I mean, did you go to the Beverly Hills Trump rallies?
Yes.
They were freaking unbelievable. The most diverse, fun, happy group of people.
I know.
You got people walking around, Jesus loves Trump, and you got the Orthodox Jews for Trump and the gays for Trump and the black. And nobody cared. Everybody was happy. All that. The one other piece that I would add to your equation there that maybe could add a little legitimacy to the Biden thing is that I do think there was a certain amount of people who just felt, could we just get to something normal?
Okay.
Now, I don't agree that something normal is going to come. I think something much worse is going to come.
If he gets,
you can feel it already. You can
100%. You're right about that, because I have one of my very close friends, someone who I really like.
It's just the white flag.
He was so anti-Trump. Like, why are you so anti-Trump? He goes, I just want peace.
Yeah. But that's,
I'm like, you should love Trump. Everything. Because I just can't. I want to be able to walk down the street and not feel like I'm going to get assaulted in my own neighborhood. I was like, to me, that's the worst. That's like saying, okay, the terrorists won.
Yeah.
That's like saying, okay, so we don't.
Because by peace, what he means is submission.
Submission, right, exactly.
I will submit, so now we have peace. That's what freaking Palpatine did in Star Wars.
There you go.
When Dan kill all the Jedi, now we have peace.
Bingo. So when Dan Crenshaw was on my podcast, he said, like, the classic game they're playing right now is we're not going to let you get back to normal unless you give us what we want.
Yes, I totally believe
that. And to me, that's where I personally will draw a line. I will do anything not to, like, I'm the guy who will not succumb to that. But I saw a friend of mine who's not, and it's not that he's a tough guy. He's a tough guy, smart guy, good guy. I can't take it anymore. Enough.
Look what happened in just literally in the last 10 days. Remember Biden, they announced Biden as the president-elect on Saturday morning, right? For the next 48 hours, we got crowds of massive people all over the place. They're celebrating. They're playing music. People can wander around. They're smiling again. You probably saw the video of the girls drinking champagne and passing it around in Brooklyn, and everybody's happy. The pandemic's gone. But then what happened? Trump, by Monday, basically was like, I'm fighting this thing. He gets massive crowds all over the country. And then what happens? Now
the pandemic.
The pandemic is back. It's back, baby. And we're closing down everything, and you can't go out, and we're going to shut you all down. Meanwhile, our governor in this lunatic state is up at French Laundry. Have you ever eaten at French Laundry?
It's pretty good.
Is it good? I wanted to go. I wanted to go.
Yeah.
But it's $1,000 a plate probably, and he's there with 12 other people. It turns out, did you hear this? It turns out he was with lobbyists on top of everything else.
Well,
they're freaking lobbyists.
The rest of them are in Hawaii right now.
Oh, and the rest, right? They send the rest of them to Hawaii because California is not even beautiful enough for these freaks.
Can you believe this, by the way?
I can believe anything at this point. These people, all they want to do is control us. And the silver lining to all of this is that good people are waking up. Good people are waking
believe
up.
so. I think that I see it. That people really are waking up. Here's what I don't get, though. Okay, to me, it's so obvious at this point. It's so obvious that, like, the left, there's something very sinister and wrong going on. I grew up, as you can imagine, in the most left.
Yeah. No, I know. We're from the same place.
Okay, you get it.
How old are you?
I'm 58 years old.
You're 58, so I'm 44. But we grew up in the same place, like roughly same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
My parents, my dad passed, but they were incredibly liberal to this very day. They're always going to be. My mother and I even had, a big issue with this stuff because, since my daughter's liberal because she was brainwashed in college, and now she's coming back. She's still liberal, but she's starting to wake up now because she's a healthy liberal, and as you say,
because you mean old school liberal.
She's saying, old school.
You mean JFK liberal,
yes,
and that's
very different. That's a right of center Democrat, right?
Yes, that's a right wing extremist now.
Right,
JFK wanted to lower taxes and get us out of war. He'd be thought of as a far right Republican at this point. Yeah.
What do you think it is? Okay, so you mentioned this idea they just want to control us, right?
Yeah.
You think that's what it really is?
I think people on the right, and this has been the shocking part of sort of my political evolution over the years. People on the right they'll agree to disagree on all sorts of stuff. So I'm begrudgingly pro-choice. I think that's probably where you are too, right? Like you want some
100%.
level of right. So I'm begrudgingly pro-choice. I'm against the death penalty just because I don't want the state to have that power. I'm obviously for gay marriage. I mean, some stuff that's thought of as lefty stuff.
Right.
I went to SUNY Binghamton. I believe the state has some role in education, although now I think that's getting harder to argue because the state is just so out of control and they're brainwashing people at colleges. But the point is, I still have things that should be lefty cred. People on the right, I think fundamentally, they believe in individual rights. They believe that if you are a legal member of society, it doesn't matter all the immutable shit. It doesn't matter what your gender is and your skin color and all that stuff. But sometimes that can sound cold because then it sounds like, what do you mean you're not for black people? What do you mean you're not for gay people? And you say, well, no, I am. I'm not for group rights. I'm not for treating groups differently. The left is just filled with lazy thinking. It's just that's what I was saying earlier. It's just like, oh, we're for poor people. And then you go, well, what do you mean you're for poor people? Well, we're for all the programs that help poor people. And then you go, well, do the programs help poor people? Because actually, we know that they don't help poor people. We know that as the welfare state grew, especially in black communities in the 60s and 70s, what did it do? It destroyed the black family. We know that. Look, you're a New Yorker. You know, like my sister lived in a half rent controlled,
and
half
I'm a student
market
of history too.
Right. So okay. So New York real estate, right?
1970s crashed, destroyed. Right. Yeah.
Because they create systems that make no sense. So my sister lived on the Upper West in a building that was half market value and then half rent controlled. So you have the people, my sister with her 2 kids living in a 1-bedroom for like $5,000 a month, maybe even more than that, like some crazy number, right? And then you have half the building that is minorities that have been trapped there in essence because they're rent controlled. So they get it for like the same apartment they get for maybe $300. And then why would they ever leave?
Right.
Why would they ever say, you know what, I better get another job or more education so I can get a more high paying job because then I'm going to lose the benefits and I'm going to get kicked out of my nice building on the Upper West and I'm going to have to move to East Harlem or some other thing. So we create all of these things. It all sounds nice. Help poor people.
Yeah.
And it never helps poor people. That's just the truth.
I think that it goes back to the problem that everything sounds and looks good on paper.
Yeah, that's it.
Until you realize that the bureaucracy that must be created to run any one of these institutions will be hopelessly inept and corrupt and self-serving and cannibalize most of the money that it's supposed to be distributing. So what happens is, like, if you look at any system that's supposed to be organized by a government, it ends up becoming so wildly inefficient. I'll give you an example. In 1993, I chartered a private jet. This is back when, how old were you in 93?
93, I was born in 76, so I'm 27.
Okay, right. So you're still in the work, right? You don't remember this probably when Czechoslovakia was still Czechoslovakia. It wasn't Czech Republic yet. And Slovakia.
Yeah.
It was just breaking up. So me and my boys from
17, not 27. Okay, I had to do math. I think. Okay.
All right. So yeah, it sounded like you're a little, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so my boys, many from Syosset and Jericho area, right? We went and flew out there to corner the market in coupons because they were privatizing the economy. They had just splitting up Czech and Slovakia, so they issued coupons to all the citizens, and then based on who had these coupons, you could go and start bidding and try to privatize all these formerly communist companies. We went there in like the hour of desperation at Czech Republic. Now Czechs are very smart, very prosperous. Okay, and they were before Stalin, the whole thing. They were like considered like the Paris of East Europe. They're really, really, and there was this big thing. Like when you went there, they're like, Slavs are dogs. Like they hated the Slavs. Like all the problems were from the Slavs.
Right.
And the Czechs were like these brilliant. Like I'm a Czech. I'm not a Slav. Right. They were breaking up. So interesting moment. Right. And here's what I saw. You're gonna love this. We would go to these corporations that were formerly like Motorkopf now, which is a very successful company there now. Right. This is 93. They're employing 225,000 people, and they need 2,000. And they're losing their bleeding red ink fast.
They can't figure out why.
In a rose bush, right? Like they can't get in. And I went from company to company and watched bloated institutions because it was being run by government with not rules of free enterprise, right? And they couldn't, and they made this piece of shit car called the Skoda, which was like the worst car ever constructed, the Skoda back then, right? And you watch these terrible products being made by bloated institutions. That's what I see happen. Whenever you see like that sort of socialistic, the government take over, they're going to run it. it's not that like, yeah, great in theory. I get it. It would be nice if we could put a pot of money and distribute it and give it. It doesn't work.
No.
Because the institution itself ends up wasting all the money and being so wildly inefficient. It doesn't work.
Your whole life, your whole story, for all the good and the tough times and everything else, is a perfect example of what, in a strange sense, what America is supposed to be, right? You create stuff. You don't turn to the government to do anything. That doesn't mean there wasn't a time when the government could do some stuff and was better at doing some stuff. The government at one time did get us to the moon.
I was going to use the
but who's getting us to Mars? It's Elon Musk.
Exactly.
You think if you're a great scientist, you're right now, like you're a great mind, you're a young person, you're a great mind, great scientist. Do you want a government job? Do you want to, that's why the worship of Fauci is a really interesting thing. Look, he's a scientist. I'm not sitting here besmirching the guy, but in effect, great scientists go for other jobs now. There's financial reasons for it. There's freedom reasons for it.
Yeah.
You just get trapped in this machine. But really what you're talking about is, do you
He's a functionary. He's just a functionary, Fauci, right? The government.
Every month he says something. No, don't wear masks. Wear masks.
I'm not a fan of
don't do
Fauci.
anything. They do things. Yeah, it's like
at this point, though, I think you have to feel okay. I get it, buddy. You have to be basking in the glow of this thing.
Yeah.
He's loving it. He's just saying shit. He's like almost like Trump. You never know what's going to come out of Fauci's mouth. You know what? Sorry, guys. Just do what you're told. The shit that this guy says, an unelected official, like it's almost unbelievable. I'm like,
I know.
You go, Fauci. You just keep saying stupid shit. Go ahead. You know.
Well, it's like, because people say, "Well, you got to believe the science."
Yeah.
The scientists. Believe the scientists. That makes no sense. I mean, you know that science. You're not going to believe this.
Exactly.
Science is not perfection. You know, like science.
The base of science is not to believe science. It's try to challenge every hypothesis and improve on the way you see if something's true or false is by testing it and challenging it, and it evolves over time. All the things that I was a science, a bio major at biochem in college. I have a degree, and most of the stuff I was taught is not true. Like I had false beliefs. Like my whole thing. I'm like, well, the brain can't grow new cells. I was taught that, and it's not true.
And
right?
and that's the purpose of science, right? Like you see a theory and you either prove it or you disprove it or whatever else. But we put these phrases, believe in science. The same people that say believe in science will also tell you that you're allowed to select your gender.
Right.
So it's like, I'm not a scientist, but I'm pretty sure having a penis makes you male and having a vagina makes you female.
Your preference of sex is a different issue.
You could prefer whatever the hell you want to prefer. And by the way, you could also transition, but that doesn't change your biology. And saying that doesn't make you anti-trans. If someone's trans, if someone is born biologically male and then transitions to become female effectively, they're not biologically a female. That's just the truth.
Question. So this is like, I think it's interesting. We agree on so many different things in the sense like
Long Island creates a certain sense of reality. I really think so.
It's almost like a practical way of thinking
that
I buy into where, like, for instance, I know do you think it's fair that girls that transition are winning all the medals now in women's sports? Like, what do you think?
You mean boys that transition to females that then are beating the crap out of all these? No, of course it's not. But now you've got the feminists saying that's okay.
But it's not. But like, it's obviously just not.
Yeah, it's just not.
Nothing against the girls. I'm not saying you should have a separate league for all the trans people that want to compete against each other, because it's just
by the way, I'd be okay with that if they want that,
whatever. It's because it's just a different musculature. It's obvious. It's just, what it seems like. It seems that, like, again, I always say it's on both sides, but right now it's whoever really is out in full force. It's like they ignore the obvious. Like, they say things that go against the obviousness of life and general common sense, and they try to justify it by shouting you down with labels and identity politics. And if you don't agree with them, you're evil. You're this, you're that, you're evil.
There is a reason that Long Island, there's a huge amount of successful people from Long Island, huge amount of successful people from Jersey. There's something about the proximity to New York City, but growing up not necessarily in New York City, that creates sort of what you described about Syosset.
I had it from Bayside, Queens. It's growing up around money, educated, knowing how little you have and what else. There's always this better life that you could aspire to. And we always thought, like, one day you'll make it and move out to Long Island. That was the whole thesis of growing up in Bayside. You move, you make it, and you didn't move. It wasn't the city. You make it and you move out to Long Island. And you get a big house out there, and that's where the rich people live. And I think you're right. It exists in Jersey as well. All right. So support for the Wolf's Den is brought to you by MANSCAPED, one of my favorite companies. Listen, MANSCAPED is the premier, world famous below the waist grooming expert for the world. This is like it. It's like the main player in the men's grooming game. They have products available all over Europe, Canada, UK, Australia, and of course, right here in the good US of A. Now listen, guys, I know a lot of you don't like to talk about this sort of stuff here, this sort of shit, right? But me, I talk about anything. That's why I'm the wolf, right? You gotta stay groomed. I'm talking about your ears. You don't want the enchanted forest coming out of your ears. You don't want freaking nose hairs coming out, which is the grossest thing ever. And also the private parts down nether, down here, right? And you know what I'm talking about, guys. No one wants to see the freaking wild enchanted jungle down there, okay? You send women running for the hills like that. Trust me, I know. Not firsthand, but I've heard it, okay? Manscaped is your company for this. Now, the best part right now, the Wolf's Den listeners, all of you, you're going to get 20% off plus free shipping on all of Manscaped's products. I'm telling you, this is the time to buy. Claim your discount right away. Get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com/wolf. Again, that's 20% off. Free shipping at manscaped.com/wolf. Your balls will thank you, as will your earlobes, your inner ear, and your nose. All right, listen, take it from me. Life is complicated. Even without COVID, you got to run your business, paying your bills, remembering to pick up your children on time. All that adds to massive stress. Listen, you've probably seen the movies, so you know that I'm not successful because I'm the most even-keeled guy in the world. I've indulged in a lot of things in my life, and stress is definitely one of them. That's why I'm on HEADSPACE, which is the only meditation app that has medically validated results. And for a limited time right now, you can get a free month trial by visiting headspace.com/wolfsden. This is an easy to use application for your phone that's going to reduce your stress level, improve your sleep, boost your focus, and increase your overall sense of well-being. You can get your free month by visiting headspace.com/wolfsden. You deserve to feel happier, and Headspace is meditation made simple. Go to headspace.com/wolfsden. That's headspace.com/wolfsden for a free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditation apps for every situation. Here's a question for you, right? You're on Parler, right?
Yeah.
All right,
I'm not doing much on there right now.
I haven't posted yet, but I went on it.
I have one post. Yeah.
So,
but I'm all for the concept of Parler, and I love Dan Bongino. I think he's a great guy.
I love Dan Bongino too. Yeah. So what do you think? So we spoke about Trump, the end game, right? Let's unpack what's really going on right now. There's two things that I see that potentially could disrupt, overturn the election, right? And I think both of them only are going to be tried. It's only to be in the Supreme Court where this actually gets heard, right? Because they'll get just rejected in all the kangaroo courts. And I would even expect even a right-leaning lower court's not going to have the balls to overturn an election. You saw what happened yesterday in Michigan. They wouldn't certify one. Did you see this?
Oh, yeah. And then next thing you know, they're attacking the
and they certified that.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm like, what the hell? I mean, oh my God, right? Yeah. So separate issues. They're not worth discussing. The point is, actually, it is worth discussing. They actually was, the way elections get certified is they have, certifiers. Actually, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. There's one county in Michigan, Clark County, and the Republicans refused to certify the results because there was too much obvious fraud and irregularities, and they just were not certifying it, which would have kicked it up eventually to, if enough people wouldn't certify these different counties, right? Then it goes to the state. I think the state legislature was Republican.
Yeah.
Point is,
in that case, then
Trump,
the state would go to Trump.
But the point was, within 2 or 3 hours, they changed their minds.
Yeah.
I'm never a conspiracy. Like, what happened? Like, what would happen to make someone change their mind? They said, oh, well, they were guaranteed that in the next election that there'll be more safeguards in place. But, it's almost like, is this... Like, my ex-wife was very much into this whole thing.
How far down that rabbit hole do you want to go?
That's my ex-wife. She went down the rabbit hole, my ex-wife. And I love her. Great girl. But she went down the rabbit hole to, the ice bullets and the Clintons and the whole thing, the dead bodies and the lizard people. She's real. She's in there,
Right. So I don't need to go all the way to the lizard people.
Right, but I drew the lizard people. But, I said, honey, you got to stop before the lizard people.
Right. You got
losing some credibility to the lizard people.
Right before the frogs make you gay and the lizard people. Yeah. If you go into the reptile situation,
it gets dicey there,
But is it possible that pressures that we can't quite understand, that you can't really talk about in public, whatever those pressures are. We're going to do something to your family. It's politics. It's the dirtiest freaking thing there is
in the world.
Do you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah, of course.
So Game of Thrones, right?
I know every word of every episode.
So Game of Thrones. What was Game of Thrones? Well, the Game of Thrones, meaning the endless quest for power. That's why. That's all everyone in that show wanted was power, power, power. The end of Game of Thrones, basically everyone's dead, and you got 6 guys sitting at a table, and they pretty much know that everyone they know is dead. And it's like, that is what politics is. So the idea that they're not doing some shady stuff when Trump talks about draining the swamp, what the hell is that thing? We're seeing it. We're seeing it.
So let's get to the two things that I see. And number one is this issue with the Dominion voting machines. How could, so unless Sidney Powell, who was the lawyer, unless she's a stone cold liar.
Yeah, then the shit
and she's
saying,
looking in the camera and just lying, which I don't believe is true. How could the things that she's alleging be allowed? How could it have happened? It doesn't seem like it's possible why? And why was it allowed to go this far?
Yeah.
You're saying Trump maybe had a plan, but why would it go this far?
So I think that's the $1 million question. I actually, on the way here, I was talking to my producer, Michael, and I was saying something like that too, because Trump is now quoting some of this stuff, like that Dominion flipped 1 million votes. Like, this is not just saying, this isn't like, there were some irregularities.
They lost a memory card in Georgia.
Yeah, which that happened. They just found a memory card yesterday. It's like,
2 actually now.
Yeah. But there's a huge difference between saying, okay, we're counting votes that showed up late, like they were doing in Pennsylvania, and we don't know what the discrepancy is on that, and signatures don't match, versus the electronic voting systems that are owned by this company. I think it's called Cinmatech. That
are now on the transition team for Biden.
That literally, the guy, when you said the Polish guy before, because I thought that's the guy you were talking about.
That's right, different guy.
So literally the guy that works for Cinmatech, right? That's the parent company.
Smartmatic,
something like that.
And he's now on the Biden transition team.
So it's like, okay, there's a lot of weird stuff right in front of our faces, but I'm not a forensic, I'm not hunting all this stuff down like all of us. We can talk this out and go, well, what kind of feels logical and sensible here? The problem is we don't have a media that gives a shit about truth or honesty. I thought that was sort of where you were going with this originally.
So it's part of where I'm going, because what's happening right now, which is really, really dangerous right now, is that we are at a crossroads, which is why I think Paula is so important.
Yeah.
Is that if it wasn't for Paula right now, I would have no way of getting news.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get to see the other side. I get to see the left side. That's everywhere. I wouldn't get to, I read both. I want to read both sides.
Yeah.
I want to know both sides of the equation. But what I'm seeing right now, like, for example, it was found out that I think they polled people that voted for Biden. And I think that 75% of them didn't even hear about the Hunter Biden scandal.
Yeah, incredible.
Because it was suppressed.
But they all know about Q.
Right, they all know about Q.
They all know about Q, but they didn't know about Hunter Biden.
And then about a third of them said, or 13% said they would have changed their vote if they knew it. So, like, you're saying, whoa. I'm like, okay, that's so not illegal. That's, that is what it is. But the point is, in order for there to be a healthy democracy, it requires an informed populace through the news. And that's why the news is afforded special protections. They betrayed the trust. Of the country right now. And what we're seeing, I think this division between right is simply I believe it's rooted in a completely corrupt media that is not telling, because there's like people on the right saying, okay, they know it's bullshit, so they stop listening.
Yep.
Okay. They look at Fox, and I have to say, I lost a lot of faith in Fox with that Arizona thing. Just what happened, it just doesn't. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what happened there. But generally speaking, again, now they're buying into the whole narrative that it's over, it's whatever, and then maybe they just try to keep the peace for all I know. But it's scary to think that when you think these places are influenced like a Murdoch or his children, are they really influencing what's being said on, I don't know. I would think that, I used to think there was more integrity. Maybe I'm naive or something, but it's obvious.
No, because you remember a time where news people had integrity. That's the thing. So that's not you being naive. You're remembering people that had integrity.
What did we think they did?
So that's
I'm wondering,
So that's a good argument too. So like back in our day, right? Like,
do we know? Or there was no social media to get both sides out.
Right. So that's the irony. irony. So it's like what you're talking about really is that the Overton window is constantly expanding now, and it may have expanded to a point that we can't get anything sensible anymore. So when we were growing up, you could watch NBC Nightly News at 6:30, ABC Nightly News at 6:30, or CBS Independent, basically.
Yes.
Do you like Peter Jennings? Do you like Tom
correct.
Brokaw? Or do you like...
And that was it.
Who's the other guy? The CBS guy?
Dan Rather?
Dan Rather.
Yeah.
So, and that was basically it. But pretty much...
And before that, Walter Cronkite.
And basically everyone trusted him. Now, the argument would be, well, maybe they just weren't showing us a certain amount of shit.
Exactly.
That's totally legit.
But when he came out against Vietnam, that sunk the war, basically. In other words, if you go back,
So it's not to sit here and say Walter Cronkite was perfect, but there was a sense of, okay, we're getting some sort of sensible filter here. But of course, you're getting this much if this is the totality of information, if it's only coming out of one channel, it can't give you everything, right? So then we had 3 channels, and that was okay. Then we had cable news, and it expanded it. And then cable news also went 24 hours a day.
Right.
Once CNN started doing that, really during the Iraq War, the first Gulf War.
Right.
Then you have these other cable news channels. Then they decide, okay, we're going to really have political positions. So Fox says we're on the right. MSNBC says we're on the left. CNN fakes it, but they're obviously on the left. Then suddenly you get the internet, and now you have YouTubers and podcasters, and this, like what we've talked about here, is way more valuable in terms of in terms of just trying to make some sense of the world than anything that you're going to see at 7:00 on CNN tonight. Like watching Wolf Blitzer interview a congresswoman about some bill, or who are they calling a Nazi today? You will feel dumber.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. And I've been saying to myself, I've been steering clear of politics mostly. I mean, sometimes I just can't help myself, but generally I stay away more business than politics. But it's almost like I'm feeling like unless I do something, because I have a very large following, I almost feel like there's something wrong here. Like the message is not getting out, the truth is not getting out to people, and you need to have. I really believe in order for society to function, there's got to be some place where people can look and say, "This is what's really happening." I can make my own conclusions, but these are the facts. When you have someone like Don Lemon pretending he's a journalist, you see, what I love about Hannity is like he goes, I'm a pundit. And Tucker Carlson, I'm on the right.
Hannity, Long Island guy, by the way. I think he's in Iceland. Yeah.
So in other words, like that to me is not dangerous at all. Because a Tucker or Hannity or even what's the name on Rachel Maddow, they're not dangerous.
Yeah.
They are for the left. They say they're for the left. That's their position.
She lied about Russia for 3 years.
Doesn't matter. But the point is, what you do. Even a Bill Maher, he's left. Okay, he's starting to. By the way,
I know.
He's really some interesting things going on. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what's going on there. I think you might. Just be panicking because he's a smart guy, Bill Maher. He's like, what the hell is going on here?
Maher is the old liberal that you were talking about with your parents and all the liberals that we grew up with, right? A free speech liberal, right. But Trump's gone after him personally. So I think his level of Trump derangement syndrome snapped him in a way. Like when these people, they're like fine, but then or it's what you described with your friend before. Trump now, it's like he's hunting them down all day long.
People,
so Maher is good. He's great when it comes to fighting some religious stuff, and he's great about free speech and all the liberty stuff. But his answer to everything is always big government. Like he loves the Democrats. He loves Bernie. Yeah. It's like, man, how can you be so smart and not see that? But I think you'll like my line on this. What I've been saying for about 6 months now is this is not a political fight. There's a political battle happening right now, and there's a cultural battle, and everyone's in that, right? Every day you wake up and there's some new political battle and cultural battle. But what really is happening here above that is that we're in a reality war. We're in the war for reality. That is what's happening right now, because depending on what news sources you watch, whether you're on Parler, whether you're in Twitter, whether you follow MSNBC or Fox, you could actually live in a totally different reality.
Of course.
Your neighbor next door to you, whether you know him or not, depending on what he watches, may think he lives in a fundamentally different world. So look at it this way. Like right now, I'm deeply afraid that if Biden becomes president, like the American experiment is basically done.
I'm concerned
I think we will see.
Concerned as you.
So we're pretty much lined up on this. That the horrible ideas of socialism and communism and state power. Yeah, the idea that the Senate, that one extra vote in the Senate is going to keep this good, like Mitt Romney will stop it all from happening. It's so crazy, but think about it. So we sort of believe that the country could tip off into a horrible direction under Biden, but we have to grant that half the country thinks that about Trump. whether we think they're right or not. We obviously think they're wrong, of course. But you understand what I'm saying? So we're
Sure.
that's why this is a reality war.
But I think what you're right about is I think the half, here's what I really believe. The half that hates Trump so fundamentally, they've been brainwashed
Yes. Oh, of course.
by false reality. Now, let me say another thing. I think the other side of this also is that you're saying it's a war of reality. I think at the heart of the whole thing is a war against globalists versus nationalists. There's a globalist and
one government.
It's just not. See, here's what happens. Globalism, as a businessman, globalism favors extremely wealthy people and big corporations. So every major corporation and extremely wealthy person wants a global world because more people to sell to, less barriers, more to exploit, okay, more arbitrages to exploit. Globalism drains wealth from places that have a lot of money and deposits them in places like China. Because like anything else, there's consumers and producers. Consumers, you're always going to have capital flowing out of consumers' pockets to producers, right? Yep. So what happened was we were just simply drained. Our pocketbook was drained by globalists, okay? And it was done with McKinsey advising them the whole way through, and policies that basically just and the people that lose is not so much you or I.
Yeah,
I'll always make money. You'll always make money. It's the middle class. It's the people that really think they're being protected by people on the left that are getting destroyed by globalism. It really has hurt this country terribly. I mean, the
Democrats
Clinton,
did the Democrats seem like a middle class party? Of course not. They're obviously the party of the elites now. Right. Trump. Did you ever meet Trump in all your years?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So
he flew into. So in 1989, he just bought. I remember he bought resorts from Merv Griffin in Atlantic City, right? Yeah. And he owned Taj Mahal, and he flew me in his helicopter. I was a gambler. Me and a couple of friends flew us in his helicopter to land on the roof of the castle. And
So I'm guessing from that experience with him, or just everything you probably heard about him when you were doing all your stuff, like the idea that this guy is somehow the racist and all these things. The guy cares about success.
He's more liberal than any. Yeah.
You think he's governed as obviously a conservative, but do you think Donald Trump in his heart of hearts really cares about abortion? Like really cares about right to life? Yeah. Of course not really, but I think the conservatives are saying, okay, here's this kind of crooked New York City guy, which by the way, to be a real estate developer in New York, you kind of got to be crooked, and you probably have to grease some pockets. You probably have to deal with some tough people, a lot of the same people you were dealing with on Wall Street. It was a freaking messed up thing, and then you get government regulators in there and all of that stuff. But to your point about globalism, he loves America.
Right. That's his central theme is that. Exactly.
Think what this thing gave him and gave his family. The guy could have literally done anything he wanted to do for the rest of his life. And I wish I had woken up to this earlier even than I did, because it wasn't until I never said I was supporting Trump really until September. I mean, I was heading that direction.
September when?
Of this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I didn't vote for him last time. I voted for Gary Johnson, the third party guy, and I thought I could smoke weed with the guy, and that would basically be it. But but in essence, Trump is it's so weird. It feels like a freaking sci-fi movie that this orange, hair-plugged New York City businessman who talks in non sequiturs and is half stand-up comic, half whatever, half used car salesman, that he somehow is the last line between us and complete totalitarian lunacy. And yet, unless I'm nuts, that's pretty much where we are.
It is. And I watched it happen. You know, my personal experience with Trump was just once in a helicopter where we were together. But I knew we were in the same similar circles, and I watched the whole thing happen. And I think if you look back at Trump in his earlier days.
Yeah, I watch a lot of those videos when I'm doing cardio. You can catch him on YouTube.
I respect him because his message was almost identical.
Almost exactly the same.
The difference was his delivery.
Yes. Soft.
Yes, and that's something happened to him when he went bankrupt in the early 90s, and he was really sneered down upon by a lot of other billionaires. And what happened is something clicked in him. He had this very much of this sort of, he had to become a counterpuncher, right? And he made his money in a very almost a non-traditional way as a brand which was just, you have to respect what he did. He took his brand and just really built it, and things like, like the Apprentice. So I guess in some level he wasn't taken seriously, and I think that it hits his core a little bit. So it's why he gets very combative sometimes. But then again, I say to myself, if I was Donald Trump and I was getting smeared and vilified by the press to the point of absurdity, what would I do?
Yeah.
At a certain point, you're going to say, you know what? If a grandmother says something, I'm going to fight the grandma who says something bad about me.
So so it's like, that's what it is.
Zero tolerance.
You could have tipped either way, and he could have just, because I've watched those interviews with him on Donahue and him on Oprah saying that he should run for president.
Right.
The racist. But Oprah 20 years ago, you should run. And he's very soft in the way he speaks. He's
humble.
Very thoughtful, deliberate. Even the
same message.
But the message is almost exactly the same. There's a certain populist message. You're getting screwed by these people and all of that stuff. I'll tell you real quick. So I met him in December, a few days before Christmas. I was doing this Turning Point USA event that I spoke at, and Trump spoke after, and Junior was there, and we've become pretty friendly. And Junior said to me and my husband, so my husband's also named David, which confuses people, and they love it. He said, "Hey, do you guys want to join me and Kimberly Guilfoyle is his girlfriend. You want to join us at Mar-a-Lago tonight for dinner?" So I was like, yeah, hell yeah, we do. So we go to Mar-a-Lago. Have you been there by any chance?
Yeah.
So you've been there. So, it's gaudy and over the top, and it feels like Trump as a building. It's kind of gold and old, and the whole thing, but all the security and all that stuff. We go into,
it's like Versace on steroids.
That's a better way. It's just hairspray and gold and, So we go in, and there's the main dining room, and there's probably, it's actually kind of small. I don't know. There's maybe 50 people in there. Totally every seat was taken, but probably about 50 people. And then there's a smaller dining room with maybe 20 people or so, 30 people. And we walk in, and we're at a four-top with Kimberly and Don and David and I. And literally right next to us is Trump and Melania and Rudy Giuliani and I think two other people. And we have dinner. And by the way, this was in the midst of impeachment, where everybody was saying the walls are closing in. He's freaking out. They're coming to get him. He's having the guy was laughing all night long because, he's the president. You're always kind of looking at him. He's laughing all night long. He had no tie on. His hair was a little like sort of flatter because it was the end of the day. He's having a ball. Anyway, we finish up dinner. And Junior's just a great guy. And he's also he's just like a New Yorker. He's like us. There's just a reality there. And there's no bullshit there. So Junior says at the end of dinner, he says, you want to meet my dad? I said, of course I want to meet your dad. So we walk up to him, and his dad's sitting, and he says, Dad, I want you to meet Dave Rubin. He's got a great podcast. He's been a big ally. And Trump looks at me. He's sitting. He looks up and he goes, do I recognize you? I recognize you. And I said, oh, well, I'm on Tucker a lot. He goes, oh, that must be it. Then he turns to David, my husband. He goes, who are you? David goes, well, I'm his husband. He goes, husband? That is great. You know what? I want to stand up and shake your hands. Thank you guys for coming out. He shakes both of our hands. He goes, you know what your only problem is? Your problem is you guys are too handsome. You guys are just too handsome. That's your problem. Then he goes, Melania. He goes, honey, can you believe it? These guys are gay. Can you believe it? He goes, and then he turns to me. He goes, I want you guys to know I don't give a shit.
Right.
I don't think anyone else is giving a shit. Right. And I don't think anyone's given a shit for 20 years.
Right.
And then David and Melania started chatting, and then Trump Jr. got pulled away, and I had probably about 6-8 minutes with Trump one-on-one. And it was right when there was a rumor that Bloomberg was going to get in. And I told him my theory on Bloomberg, which was that it was all a cover for Biden, that they needed somebody because they needed to drag Biden over the finish line. So remember, Bloomberg was the worst, right? Those debates, but they needed him because he took all the fire, because otherwise the fire was going to go to Biden. And I think that was the plan. And I told that to Trump, and he was like, that's kind of interesting. And then he looks at me, he's like, nah, it's just because he hates me. Just the most perfect Trump thing. But I'll tell you one other thing about it, which was that Trump and Melania, they love each other. They are actually in love. Several times he referred to her as honey, and he put his hand across the table and put his hand on her when he was speaking to her. And he had me, he said, honey.
You could just tell, right?
He said, honey, what do you think about this? And then he had me tell her what I had said about Bloomberg. And she actually thought it was interesting. But if they weren't in love, when he put his hand on her.
You can tell body language is very.
So I don't know what it is. You see those videos of them publicly, and she kind of pulls away. Or I don't know if they were playing some weird game for the media on that. But that was my main takeaway of the night. It was not that he's okay with gay people. I had no doubt about that.
I'm sure he always was.
Yeah, he's from New York.
Right.
It's didn't he do drag once on SNL or something? It's nobody cares about that. But the takeaway really was that they're actually in love. And it's just framed as this crazy other, like she's a sex slave or something.
Do you think so? So there's these two Is it thesis?
I don't know. Thesis. Well, give me one thesis, and then we'll go to the other one. How about that?
We touched on it. Which is the insanity of the Dominion voting systems, right? Like as you're saying, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, if that's true, well, then it can be proved by the way, because software always leaves a trail. So we'll see what happens there.
But by the way, your point about what Sidney Powell's doing is really interesting because it's like, man, is this woman just literally shredding her life in front of us? Right. Is she legitimately insane and is now saying things that are no basis in truth, or does she have something?
And how could that not be picked up by the New York Times?
Right. That it's not worth discussing.
How is that not worth discussing, at least? To say this lunatic is saying, in other words, why suppress it? That's number one. The second thing, which is far easier to wrap your arms around, is the Giuliani side of the case, where he's making that in Philadelphia, there was, I believe, was it 300,000 or 600,000 votes that were opened, absentee ballot or mail-in ballots that were opened, and they violated a court order and did not allow Republican watchers to observe, which by law invalidates those ballots.
Yeah.
And if those ballots are invalidated, then there you go, that the election is over. But then on the other side, you say, well, how do you disenfranchise all those people? The answer is vote again. To me, the answer is very obviously, let's do
Good God, could you imagine if
well,
that's,
I don't,
could you imagine if that's the direction we go?
Let me ask you a question. Well, first of all, your thoughts on that before we move on.
Well, I don't. So look, I know probably less than you on the specifics of what happened. And, because there's this other issue in Philadelphia about the postmarks where they're going to count things that aren't postmarked.
Yeah,
and that the attorney general, you saw that tweet
course,
a couple days. The attorney general says 5 days before the election,
there's no way
when we count the votes,
of course,
Biden will win. It's like, what?
I know.
I would say, broadly speaking, without getting lost, like in the very specifics of it, the fact that Giuliani's leading this thing, this guy wins. He knows how to win. He knows how to fight. We talked about the mafia thing already. Like, he knows how to do this thing. So Powell, who was the lead lawyer on the Michael Flynn stuff, it's like, if these people are just burning their whole existences in the name of saving Trump, then that's a weird, interesting psychological condition. But that seems very odd to me. And even Trump right now, let's say you knew it was all bullshit, right? Like you knew that the votes weren't there, or you just didn't even know it.
You just don't want to leave.
You just don't want to leave. It's like he's going all in.
You see the meme from the Wolf of Wall Street? I'm not leaving.
No, I saw it. Somebody sent it to me the other day. No, and the speech is perfect, and like really it's perfection, really. Yeah. Have you seen one with Trump's head on it? They got
Everyone sent me saying they're the first person sent me. I got like 8,000 of them.
Yeah, it's but it's perfect. The speech is perfect. The feeling that was happening in that room,
exactly.
It's how Trump's people feel. But the point is, if there's no there, if there isn't really something, then what is Trump actually doing right now?
Like then FBI agents. I'm getting them. You're quoting FBI agents there, huh? No there. That's
right, exactly. So if there's no there, if there's nothing and they've all gone in at this level, what is it they're trying to do? And then that's like a whole other series.
Well, the left will be obviously just try to delegitimize a duly elected president, which is nonsensical. They always say what they did for 4 years. But so let's
they respected the results of the election.
Exactly right. So let's dig into this for a second here, right? So let's just say that they can forget the Dominion. That honestly, it's almost like above my pay. I can't even fathom that how could this have happened?
Right.
Because it just seems so insane.
Well, what Powell is saying is that they have people that work there. Like they're getting affidavits and they're getting people on the record. So maybe there really is something. They're going to come in. Some programmer is going to be like, guess what? We did write a script.
Yes. Yeah. So that's one thing, which is like, okay, like atomic bomb, right? The whole election was fixed. It's over. I don't know what happens next.
But by the way, if they could prove it, do you think that would be enough to get the media to say that they could prove it? You know what I mean?
The Supreme Court would buy into it, I think.
Yes, so I agree with that. But does that it's almost like we can't get out of this political problem we're in a way. Because even if it all comes out, let's say it really came out that Trump won, it was proven and everything else.
So here's the difference between the right and the left, I believe. If this goes to the Supreme Court and they rule against Trump, I believe the right will respect it.
I totally agree.
I believe the right will respect it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the left will. The left will say the Supreme Court's been stacked. It's an unfair playing field, and there's going to be rioting in the streets,
Yes.
and absolute unrest and mayhem. And my only concern is does the Supreme Court have the balls to do what's right? Because historically, the Supreme Court does not go along party lines.
Yeah.
What they do is they do whatever they think is right, like the way Justice Roberts has flipped
Right.
to the left. And I said, I called that a long time. I called that 4 years ago.
Huh.
I said, don't even, oh, yeah, a lot, too many. They just, one will flip to they always
Right.
do it. If it's 20 on the left, one flips to the right. It's happened for 50 years.
Which,
so,
by the way, they kind of should, because
they should.
because
They're to balance the country to make sure we don't implode, right?
Yeah.
But the question is will they, let's say they have irrefutable evidence, do they vote? Do they vote knowing there's going to probably, I wouldn't say a civil war,
No,
but
I got you.
certainly massive unrest?
I mean, this is the thing.
That's the $1 million question.
It could start what would be, and maybe we're in it already. I mean, there is some level of like, are we actually in a low grade civil war?
We are. I think I think we're in a
level,
cold civil war right now.
Right.
For sure. We're in a cold
Okay, so
civil
I
war.
like that. So we're in a cold civil war right now, but it feels like, I agree. Like if it gets to the end and there's just, it's not there, the right will, they're not going to burn down Rodeo Drive, right?
Yeah, but the left will.
Because the left is telling you that this experiment, the American experiment,
Is fraudulent
wrong and evil.
It was based on
and
slaughtering
racist.
people that didn't in the India. It goes back to
So, exactly.
Let's eradicate Columbus Day, George Washington, Jefferson, everything you thought is untrue.
Ooh, they're coming for Columbus Day. They're going to come for MLK.
Right.
I mean, MLK, he didn't want his children to be judged by the color of their skin. That's exactly what they want them to be judged on.
Right.
You know what I mean? They want, if you're a certain skin color, you should get certain benefits.
And I've
if
seen
you're
that,
certain,
by the way, in South Africa. It doesn't work real well.
It doesn't end well.
Not at
right?
all.
Yeah, exactly.
They have,
Exactly.
they have this called black empowerment there. It's a fucking disaster.
And no, they've because you end up the overcompensation ends up bringing you right back to where you started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a million ways to get around it. And then just a few very smart blacks will end up just globbing all the power anyway, exploiting the masses.
Well, look, how many people have you hired in your whole life? Probably
Thousands.
Did you ever once look at the numbers and be like, that guy's gay, let's hire him. That guy's black, let's hire him. As if that was the totality of the thing. Never once.
Never.
I know it. It's just obvious.
Never.
It's just obvious.
No.
Could you do the job?
That's all I care. Right. Exactly. I don't care what they do.
But that's what they're trying to destroy. They're trying to, it's anti-human in a way.
Why?
Control, man. It's just why do they want control?
Why survival? Why survival of the unfittest?
Because I think in a certain way, this would, I toured with Jordan Peterson for a year and a half, and Jordan's message was basically, you must find purpose in life. You must find some purpose in life. And what they've traded, instead of purpose, meaning hard work so that you can find a spouse that you want to live with, so you can have a house that you want, so you can have a family you want, like the stuff that we know is the right thing. We know that's the right path, really. And he would always say there's marginal people on the outside. You might find an artist that really should never get married and never be with someone to create some other thing that's so transcendent that it can change other. But for the most part, like, we know what the fundamentally good things are. It doesn't mean we all behave exactly right along the way, right? Like we've all done shit, and I've seen the movie many times. We've all done drugs. I've done a lot of stuff myself. Like, it doesn't mean you act on the path the whole way, but there's a certain, if you have purpose in your life, you will be going towards something.
Right.
You will be going towards something. They've traded purpose for control, sort of, for just like, how do we just sort of get everyone to kind of think like us? Because really, if you want to go really deep on it, I think it's just like an existential crisis. Like, I think it's like a fundamental, it has something to do with pure secularism in a weird way, like purely not, I don't mean believing that you have to believe in God purely in a religious sense, but if you have no sense of belief, like if you don't believe, if you think the whole world is wrapped around what you think of it, it will make you crazy. And I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing sort of secularism on steroids.
How about
so that
this?
it's like, oh, your grandma, she should just die. Remember when Oprah said that? What are we going to do about all these old racists? Well, they'll just die one day. Well, those are people's grandparents too. It creates like a really weird thing where just what you think today is the truth, and everyone that came before you is some backwards idiot racist moron. And it's like, I don't think I'm better than my parents or my grandparents or my great grandparents. Like,
what do you think about this? Let me try this one on for size. I've had a theory I've been working on for years here, which is playing out more and more each day right in front of me, like just to see it happening. It's called Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
So the people in power right now.
Trump's on the nerd side of the movie.
But the people, watch this, okay?
Yeah.
This whole idea, should everyone get a trophy?
No, of course not.
Of course not, right?
Yeah.
There's winners, there's losers, right? And the winners get trophies. That's why they're winners. They think it's just common sense, right? Everyone
we
should
all know
not get
this. We all know
right?
Yeah.
Who's controlling information right now? The people who control information are all those who were picked last on every sports team growing up. They didn't get the girl. They were all the nerds and the techno wizards and the kids that with the big coke. I'm generalizing.
No, but you're onto something here.
But,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's happened is the people in power that are controlling the flow of information, because information is power. I really believe that.
Yep.
And as we've transitioned to this sort of digitized economy that favors intellect above all, you've created a warped sense of survival of the fittest and what should be expressed and what should be allowed to. So what's happened is they're trying to, everyone like Zuckerberg or people from Google, they're like, we just don't want to feel the pain we felt in junior high school when we were picked last and didn't get the girl.
So let's all be the same.
Yep. Everyone gets a trophy. Yep. Everyone is this. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
I'm with you.
And I think that's driving so much of what's going on right now at a very deep level. Because when you look at it, why would they? I think that combined with, fueled by this dichotomy of globalism, when you're very, very wealthy and powerful, you want globalism. Because globalism drains wealth from poor people and middle class, concentrates it into the hands of a few, and allows you to do it on a mass scale throughout the world.
Are you telling me you don't want a bunch of diplomats in Brussels to run your life? Crazy, right? Like,
it's the craziest freaking thing.
And what did they do? What did they do when Brexit was happening? They were telling you they were all racist. They were all racist.
Obviously, so they use and then so you combine those two things together. It's a very, very dangerous conversation, very good combination. And then when you go back and you start tracing it over I look at the last 25, 30 years, and I'm just watching things. I'm like, whoa! It's just like what used to be right is wrong. What's left is right, and what they have is a total buy-in from those that control information.
Think about it. What in the movie, literally in the movie Revenge of the Nerds, Trump would have been one of the nerds. He would have been one of the reject. He would have been who was the guy that was cracking the cans on his head, and he would have been with those guys.
Right.
He would have been with those guys. He would have been. You would have been like, wait, this is a weird character. You know the guy I'm talking about that flips. He was like one of the cool guys with the big beard, and then he became a nerd at the end.
Exactly.
And that's Trump.
Exactly.
That's Trump. That Trump. The idea. He's a businessman. He's rich. Blah blah blah. He's supposed to be elite, but he left the elites. He left the elites because he knew something was wrong, and he became one of the nerds. I watched. I'm sure you've seen it a million times. I watched Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
I watched
Triple
it again,
Lindy.
The Triple Lindy. I watched it again last week. It's like
best
Thornton
movie.
Mellon.
One of the most underrated movies of all time. By the way, I know.
You want to watch something great? Watch old Rodney on Johnny Carson.
I've seen it. I know everyone. I love those. I watch them all the time.
They're perfection.
Yeah.
But Trump is Thornton Mellon.
He is.
What does he do?
Tall fat guy shop.
Yeah, fat and tall and fat. And he's it's like, who hates
the business of business is business.
The business of business is business. Ned Beatty. But who hates him in the movie? It's the elite teachers.
Obviously, the British professor, right? Yeah. Where are you going to build your plant? How about Fantasyland?
It's a great scene.
Great scene.
Wait, you got the whole movie.
Oh, I know every word by heart. Yeah.
He wants him to. What are you going to build? Widgets. The guy can't
What's a widget? Right. Tell that to the bank. Tell that to the bankers.
But that's that.
People think we're crazy. Like, what these guys say?
Yeah, I got almost
now
all
you have to watch Back to School. It's a great movie, by the way.
It's funny. I mean, that scene with what's Sam Kinison?
Oh, fucking God.
He really cares about what? I have no idea.
No, it's a great. But unfortunately, we have to wrap. My assistant's pacing. I have another meeting.
Yeah.
But here's I want to wrap this up here.
Yeah. Well, we're going to pick this up on my show because I got to have you in to talk this about.
Where does this end?
We don't get out of this right now for a while. I'll tell you here. I'll give you the way we get out of it in a positive way, but there's going to be some pain points before that. The way we get out of this is somehow Trump does get reelected, meaning we have a second term of Trump, and then because of that, it causes the implosion of this bullshit. It causes the implosion of everything that you just said, that nothing that we made sense 20 years ago makes sense now. We can start saying basic things again that we know are true. We can start being patriotic again. We can start realizing that we shouldn't be building nation building and going to all of these wars. We have to get to the end of Trump. That's why I think this story is not over yet. Does it feel like
it doesn't feel like
it doesn't feel like the story is over? And I think we have to get to the end of it. And it's a big but, is there will be major pain points to get there. But the other one is the frog in the slowly boiling pot. The other one is that America really as an experiment is over. Freedom and the Constitution and all of those things really are ending, and we get sort of this world government. And they're talking about the Great Reset stuff that I'm sure you're hearing about.
Trudeau,
it's like, so that's the other one. So that one I see like probably decades of horror, which is what happens with socialism and communism. But the way out to, like, because you could see it again, that America would become patriotic again and fun again. The comedy wouldn't be dead. And when's the last time you heard a new song that you thought was cool? What'd they give us? They gave us WAP over the summer, right?
Can you imagine, like, no movies? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's something really sinister about it. Listen, I would talk to you forever. We'll pick it up on your show. I'll have you back for sure in the future.
Yeah. Awesome.
Everyone, guys, listen, what an episode. I hope you're wrong, but I think you're right. And share this with your friends. Listen, whether you're on the right or the left, all right, you need to just listen to this with an open mind. I think what's happening right now is that, people, they did this experiment where they had a college professor that started 2 profiles on Facebook, and he did everything on the right on one profile, meaning liked all things on the right, and did all things on the left on the other. And within 30 days, the 2 profiles would show you different views of the universe. You wouldn't think you're living on the same planet anymore. Something wrong with that. So all I could say is at least just educate yourself. Go out there, listen to what's on the right, listen to what's on the left, make your own decision. All right, and let's hope for the best here. And I really do hope Trump does get a second term, and I'm still
amen, brother.
That,
I'm with you.
Share this with your friends. Another great episode of The Wolf's Den, and we'll talk again soon. Take care. All right, this next section here is about business and making lots of money. Here's the deal. I'm having a small group of people over to my home in Los Angeles, and the question all of them are asking is, what's next in life? These are people who had massive success already, and they're looking to see what's that one thing, that one distinction that will take them to the next level of money and success. So maybe getting close right now to that 7 figures a year. Maybe you're trying to get to 8 figures a year. The point is that this is an opportunity for you right now to come to my house in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles here, right? And join with 9 other people, all of them ultra high achievers, to attend my mastermind event, which is led by me. Now, what's going to happen here is very special, and it's going to be nothing short of life-changing. You and this group of top business leaders are going to spend the weekend with me in intense, regimented brainstorming sessions, where you're also going to get to have some time, about an hour or more, with one-on-one consulting with me personally, along with a special breakout session where I'm going to be sharing the most cutting-edge secrets of sales, marketing strategy, things I'm using myself right now to scale my own businesses in a massive way. But the real magic, by the way, of this mastermind is you're also going to sit in the hot seat in front of all these other top performers. In other words, every person in the mastermind is going to have that opportunity for an hour or more to sit in the hot seat, where all the collective energy, brain power, and experience will be laser guided on you, focused on you and your company, and helping you take things to the next level. Things that you thought were impossible before this day will start to become very possible for you as soon as you leave. When this is over, you're going to go home feeling energized, with new ideas, new plans, and most importantly, a network of very powerful new contacts who are going to help you make them happen fast. In other words, I'm opening up my entire Rolodex to you, as all the people who are attending to do the same. I'm telling you, the results that you're going to get here from this mastermind will be nothing short of staggering. Now, a little bit about how this actually works. First, you're going to fly into Los Angeles, and my driver, Abdul, will pick you up at the airport. We'll have your favorite drinks waiting for you at my house. We'll also have a world-class chef there to cater some of the best meals you've ever had. This is going to be fun, and it's going to be about learning and business and camaraderie, all the best things in life wrapped up into one. I guarantee you will walk out of this mastermind event with a new, improved, much bolder and more powerful vision for your future, a new plan, and massively powerful new context to take your life and your business to the next level. So what you need to do right now is go to jordanbelfort.com/mastermind and apply. That's jordanbelfort.com/mastermind and apply right now. Do not miss this opportunity. It's once in a lifetime and it's life-changing. All right, real quick. Listen, if you're a CEO, you're a sales manager, or you're involved in hiring for your company, I want you to check out my new organization, Straight Line Hiring. What we do is we deliver expertly trained salespeople to companies like yours. World-class salespeople trained by me and delivered to you on demand. Go to my website, jordanbelfort.com. Check out Straight Line Hiring, the only way to grow your company with certainty.